The Lost Gift. The twin suns of Varian Prime shone over the Silver City, their light bouncing off crystal towers that reached the sky. In that world of luxury and power lived Lord Kareth Vale, an alien billionaire whose name made empires bow. He was tall, elegant, and cold as ice, his voice sharp and his eyes glowing faintly blue. He ruled over his companies like a god, and no one dared question his will. To Kareth, humans were weak, emotional, and simple, creatures that worked in his factories and cleaned his cities, nothing more. That day, Kareth left his sky mansion and came down to the Grand Crystal Market, a place filled with colors, sounds, and life. He walked slowly, surrounded by guards and floating drones, scanning the vendors selling glowing gems and alien spices. People bowed as he passed, whispering his name with fear and respect. But Kareth didn't care. He was searching for something rare, something worthy of his attention. Then, suddenly, he stopped. His gaze locked onto something, or rather, someone. Across the street, among the poorest traders and beggars, stood a thin human man. His clothes were torn, his hands rough, and his face carried the marks of hunger. But what caught Kareth's eyes was not his face. It was the small silver pendant hanging around the man's neck, glowing faintly blue in the sunlight. Kareth froze, his heart tightening in his chest. He knew that pendant. He could never forget it. It was his, a gift he had given long ago. A memory from a time when he had believed in kindness, before greed and time turned him into the cold creature he was now. Kareth stepped forward, pushing through the crowd, his guards following in confusion. The human looked up, startled. Kareth's deep voice broke the silence. "Where did you get that pendant?" The human hesitated, his hand gripping it protectively. "It was my mother's," he said softly. "She gave it to me before she died." Kareth felt the world around him fade. His mind flooded with memories, a human woman smiling, her laugh echoing in the soft light of Earth's dawn. He remembered giving her that pendant as a promise, a piece of his heart. But she was gone, long gone. And now her son, or someone wearing her legacy, stood before him. The guard stepped forward. "My lord, shall we remove him?" Kareth raised his hand sharply, his voice low and shaking. "No." Everyone watched in silence as the billionaire turned away and walked off, leaving the crowd confused. He didn't speak again, not even when his chief aide asked what had happened. For the first time in centuries, Lord Kareth Vale looked human. That night, back in his massive tower of glass and steel, Kareth sat alone, staring at the pendant's image replaying on his holographic screen. He zoomed in on it again and again. The patterns, the glow, the unique design that only he could have made. There was no doubt. It was his lost gift, the one he had given to someone who had changed him once, before he let power erase every trace of that part of his soul. He turned toward his AI assistant. "Trace that human," he commanded, his voice trembling. "Find out everything. His name, his home, his past." The AI's voice hummed softly. "Affirmative, my lord." As the system scanned through the records of the lower city, Kareth stood by the window, staring down at the endless lights of Varian Prime. He remembered her eyes, the warmth, the laughter, the words she had said before he left Earth. "You may forget me, Kareth, but I will never forget what you gave me." He clenched his fist, the memory burning inside him like fire. Was it possible that this poor human was connected to her? Was it her son? Or something even more impossible? Hours later, the AI spoke again. Subject identified. Human male. Name, Eli Ron. Residence, District 47. Status, unemployed laborer. Kareth repeated the name softly. Eli. Something about it struck him. A name she had once mentioned, a name she had dreamed of giving her child. His heart began to race, something he hadn't felt in decades. For the first time since he became the cold lord of Varian Prime, he felt fear. He turned away from the window, his voice low but full of command. "Prepare my shuttle," he said. "We're going to District 47. Outside, lightning flashed through the clouds as the night deepened. Somewhere in the dark corners of the city, the poor human named Eli slept peacefully, unaware that the most powerful being in the galaxy was coming for him, and that the meeting of two souls, one rich beyond measure, one poor beyond hope, would soon change the destiny of both their worlds. The boy from District 47. The shuttle sliced through the clouds like a blade of light, heading toward the lower levels of Varian Prime. Below, the shining towers faded into rusted metal and smoke, the air thick with dust and the smell of burning fuel. Lord Careth Vale sat inside, silent, his glowing eyes fixed on the window. It had been centuries since he set foot in the Undercity, the world of the forgotten, where the poor humans lived and the government rarely looked. His assistant's voice broke the silence. "My lord, are you sure you want to go alone?" Careth didn't answer. He only said, "Stay with the ship." The shuttle landed quietly near a broken tower, its lights cutting through the mist. Careth stepped out, his long coat brushing the dirt, the sound of his boots echoing in the narrow alleys. The city down here was nothing like the bright Varian above. Children ran barefoot between junk heaps, vendors sold scraps of food, and drones hovered low, scanning for trouble. Careth's presence drew stares. He didn't belong here. He was a creature of gold walking among rust. Then, through the crowd, he saw the same human again, Eli. The man was helping an old woman lift a heavy crate, his movements slow but gentle. He smiled faintly at her thanks, then turned to the small shop beside him, arranging tiny metallic parts on a wooden table. Careth stood hidden in the shadow, watching, his expression unreadable. He had expected anger or arrogance, but Eli looked calm, kind even. Every motion spoke of a quiet strength, something familiar, something almost painful. When Eli bent down to pick up a small broken device, the pendant glowed faintly again. Careth's heart tightened. That light, it wasn't just decoration, it was powered by life energy, his own creation from the past. It should have gone dark long ago, unless... Careth whispered to himself, "How is it still alive?" Suddenly, a group of rough aliens approached Eli's stall, pushing him aside. "Rent's due. Human," one of them growled. "No payment, no stall." Eli raised his hands calmly. "Please, I'll pay tomorrow. Just give me a day." The alien shoved him hard, and Eli fell to the ground, the pendant hitting the dirt. Before anyone could react, Careth stepped forward, his voice slicing the air. "Enough," he said, cold and sharp. The bullies turned and froze. Everyone in District 47 knew that voice. Lord Careth Vale, the untouchable billionaire, standing in their filthy street, his eyes glowing with fury. The aliens backed away instantly, muttering apologies, vanishing into the smoke. Eli looked up in shock. "You again?" he whispered. Careth extended his hand, helping him stand. For a moment, their eyes met, one filled with confusion, the other with memories too heavy to speak. Careth said quietly, "You shouldn't live like this." Eli frowned. "And what choice do I have? I'm just human, my lord." That word, just, hit Careth like a wound. He remembered hearing it once before, from the woman he lost. "I'm just human, Careth, but even a human heart can love more deeply than all your galaxies combined." He took a slow breath and said, "You will work for me." Eli blinked. "Work? For you?" "Yes," Careth said. "You will come to my company tomorrow. Report to the upper district. I'll make arrangements." Before Eli could protest, Careth turned and walked away, his coat trailing behind like silver flame. The guards who had followed at a distance hurried after him. Eli stood frozen, staring at the pendant still glowing faintly in his hand, unsure if what had just happened was real. That night, as Careth returned to his palace, his AI spoke softly. "My lord, shall I record this individual understaff registry?" Careth replied, "No, not yet." He paused, staring at the hologram of the pendant again. "There's something I need to confirm first." He opened an old locked archive, one he hadn't accessed in 200 years. Inside were fragments of memories, holograms of his time on Earth. He played one, and there she was, Arya, the human woman he once loved. Her voice filled the room. "Promise me, Careth, even if I'm gone, you'll remember kindness." The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving Careth standing alone in the dark. He whispered her name, his voice breaking slightly. Then he said, "Arya, did you have a son?" His hand trembled as he brought up the DNA scan file his AI had taken during the encounter in the market. As the results loaded, the screen blinked. Match found. Genetic similarity, 97.8%. Careth's breath stopped, his eyes widening. Eli wasn't just a stranger wearing his lost gift. He was her child. And by blood, by fate, his own. The realization hit him like thunder. The most powerful being in the galaxy had a son he never knew existed. And that son was living among the poor, wearing the only piece of love Kareth had ever given. Outside, lightning flashed again across the silver sky. Inside, Kareth Vale sank into silence. For the first time in his long, cold life, he felt something stronger than power. Guilt, sorrow, and the faint, fragile light of hope. The invisible protection. The morning came softly over Varian Prime, painting the metal sky with pale gold. Eli stood at the gates of the Vale Industries Tower, the largest structure on the planet, its tip hidden in the clouds. He looked small before its shining walls, holding a simple bag and wearing the same worn-out clothes. The guards scanned him, their eyes narrowing, but when his name flashed on the register, they stepped aside quickly. "Welcome, Mr. Eli," the robotic voice said, and the gates opened like a mouth swallowing him into another world. Inside, everything glowed. The floors, the walls, even the air seemed rich. Aliens of every shape and rank moved with precision, their eyes fixed on screens filled with data and holograms. Eli walked carefully, trying not to stare. He had never been in such a place before. The elevator doors opened before him, and a soft voice guided him. "Top floor, Lord Kareth is expecting you." When the doors slid open, Kareth stood by the massive window, his silver coat catching the sunlight. For a moment, he didn't turn, he only said, "You came." Eli nodded quietly, unsure what to say. Kareth turned slowly, his glowing eyes calm but unreadable. "You'll work in the archives," he said. "Catalog the old human artifacts we recovered from Earth. No one else here understands their meaning." Eli blinked in surprise. "Human artifacts? But I'm not trained." Kareth interrupted gently. "You'll learn." There was something strange in his tone, not the cold command of a ruler, but the quiet patience of someone holding back years of emotion. As days passed, Eli worked diligently. He cleaned, sorted, and studied every relic. Books, photographs, old coins, and tiny keepsakes once belonging to people from Earth. Kareth often came down to watch silently from the shadows. Each time he saw Eli's hands touch the items with care, his heart ached a little more. It was like watching her again. Arya, curious, kind, alive in every gesture. But Kareth's strange behavior didn't go unnoticed. In the upper council of alien elites, whispers began to spread. Why is Lord Vale protecting a human? Why does he visit the lower floors now? Is the human special? One night, as Eli was walking home through the misty streets, he felt someone following him. He turned. Nothing, only shadows. Then suddenly, a figure stepped out, cloaked in darkness, holding a stun weapon. "Human," the voice hissed, "you've made powerful enemies." Before Eli could react, a flash of blue light cut through the air. The attacker screamed as an invisible force hurled him across the street. From the rooftops, Kareth's personal drone shimmered into view, glowing faintly. It hovered protectively near Eli before vanishing into the fog. Eli stood frozen, his heart racing. "What was that?" he whispered. Far above, in his palace, Kareth watched the scene through his control screen. He whispered softly, "You're safe now." Kareth had placed invisible shields around Eli's home, tracking drones that watched every corner. No harm could touch him now. But Kareth knew the danger was real. Someone had noticed Eli. Someone from his own circle. Perhaps one of his rivals who had long desired to destroy him. The next day, Eli came to work pale and silent. Kareth noticed immediately. "You're troubled," he said. Eli hesitated. "Someone tried to attack me last night." Kareth's eyes flared with blue fire. "Did they harm you?" "No," Eli said. Someone saved me." Kareth's jaw tightened, but he only replied, "Be careful, Eli. This city hides shadows deeper than you think." Later that night, Kareth met with his AI in the command chamber. "Identify who sent that assassin," he ordered. The AI's tone shifted. "Probability high. Counselor Draven, jealous of your power and your recent human interest." Kareth's hand clenched. "So he dares threaten my blood." He paused, the last word slipping from his lips before he realized it. "My blood," he repeated softly, feeling the truth echo in his heart. In the darkness of his chamber, he whispered to himself, I kept you away from the world to protect my empire, Arya, but now the world threatens what's left of you. The next morning, Eli found something new on his desk, a small metallic bracelet with a glowing edge. He turned it over curiously. A message appeared in soft blue letters. For your safety, wear it always. Eli smiled faintly, not knowing it was a fragment of the same technology that once powered Kareth's own armor. Far above the city, Lord Kareth stood by his window again. The pendant's holographic reflection shone beside him, the same light now carried by his son. The universe had strange ways of bringing the past back to life. But fate was moving faster than he could control. And somewhere beyond the stars, Counselor Draven had already begun preparing his next move. One that would test not only Kareth's power, but the strength of a human heart, and the meaning of love that defied worlds. The trap of the elite. The great hall of the Varian Council shimmered with cold light, a place where power whispered louder than truth. Dozens of alien nobles sat on floating thrones, their eyes glowing, their minds linked through silent thoughts. At the center stood Counselor Draven, tall, sharp, and hungry for power. He had ruled beside Kareth once, but jealousy had turned him bitter, and now, he had found something to break the unbreakable Lord Vale. Draven's voice echoed through the chamber. A human, working inside the upper tower, he said, his tone dripping with venom, and under Kareth's protection. The room filled with murmurs, disbelief, then curiosity. He broke the ancient code. Someone hissed, "No human is allowed beyond level 20. Draven smiled, his sharp teeth glinting. "Then we expose him." Far above, unaware of the storm forming, Eli sat quietly in the archive room, organizing old Earth relics. The pendant on his neck glowed softly, the only piece of comfort in this strange world of glass and steel. He didn't know that every move he made was being watched through hidden lenses. Draven had planted spies, waiting for one mistake to use against him. That evening, Kareth entered the archive room, his steps silent. Eli looked up and smiled slightly. "You came." Kareth nodded. "You've done well." He looked around the room filled with fragments of humanity, old flags, torn photographs, a broken guitar, and for a moment, his cold face softened. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he said quietly. Eli tilted his head. "Your friend?" Kareth paused. "Something like that," he whispered. But before their words could continue, a sudden alarm filled the hall. Red lights flashed, security drones surrounded the area. "Lord Vale," said a voice from the intercom. "The council demands your presence immediately." Kareth's eyes darkened. "Draven," he muttered. Inside the council chamber, all eyes turned as Kareth entered, his long coat flowing like shadow fire. Draven stood smiling, his claws tapping on the metal rail. "My lord," he said mockingly, "we found a violation of interspecies law within your tower." Kareth's gaze remained cold. "Speak clearly." Draven pointed toward the screen, and Eli's image appeared, surrounded by data streams. "A human," Draven said, "working in restricted areas, accessing classified archives." The nobles began to whisper again. "This is treason, arrogance, madness." Kareth's jaw tightened, his voice calm but heavy. "He works under my command." Draven laughed. "So you admit it." "He's under my protection," Kareth said, his tone colder than the stars. "Then explain," Draven sneered. "Why a mere human deserves the favor of a god." For a long moment, silence filled the hall. Kareth could feel every gaze burning through him. He could reveal the truth, that Eli was his son, but doing so would destroy the balance of the galaxy. The elite would never allow a half-human heir to exist. So he said nothing. Draven leaned forward, sensing victory. "If you will not explain, the council will decide his fate." Kareth's hand clenched, lightning sparks flickering around his palm. "Touch him," he said slowly, "and you will regret it." But Draven only smiled wider. "We already have." In that instant, the hologram flickered, showing security guards surrounding Eli's quarters. Kareth's eyes widened. They had taken him. He vanished in a blur of light, teleporting before anyone could stop him. The council gasped, the chamber trembling under his power. Down in the lower city, the guards dragged Eli toward a transport cage. He struggled, shouting, "What did I do?" One of them hissed, "You exist." Before the cage could lift off, A blast of blue energy tore through the air. The guards were thrown aside like leaves in a storm. Kareth appeared from the smoke, his eyes blazing with fury. He reached out, and the cage shattered, metal bending under his power. Eli fell free, stunned. "You came for me?" Kareth's voice trembled. "Always." He grabbed Eli's arm, and in a burst of light, they vanished into the sky, leaving the wreckage behind. Hours later, inside a hidden chamber deep below the city, Eli sat trembling. Kareth stood nearby, breathing heavily, his power still crackling in the air. Eli looked at him, confused. "Why risk everything for me?" Kareth turned slowly, his voice soft. "Because you're not just a worker, Eli." Eli frowned. "Then who am I?" Kareth's eyes dimmed, filled with memories and pain. He whispered, "You're the last part of someone I loved, and the only thing in this galaxy I can't lose." Outside, the council declared Kareth a traitor. Draven's voice echoed through the broadcasts. The age of Lord Vale is over. But Kareth no longer cared for power or titles. He had chosen his side, not of wealth or empire, but of blood. And as the night fell over the planet of silver and fire, two figures, one alien, one human, disappeared into the shadows together, bound not by command, but by destiny. And somewhere deep in the stars, fate was waiting for their next test. The ghosts of Earth. The shuttle roared through space, leaving behind the silver glow of Varian Prime. Eli sat quietly beside Kareth, staring out the window at the endless stars. For the first time in his life, he wasn't bound to a planet. He was running from one. Kareth stood at the controls, silent, his glowing eyes fixed forward, his mind heavy with thoughts. Neither spoke for hours. Only the hum of the engines filled the air. Finally, Eli whispered, "Where are we going?" Kareth replied softly, "To the only place they won't follow us." Eli frowned. "And where's that?" Kareth looked out into the darkness and said one word, "Earth." The name felt strange on Eli's tongue. "Earth," he repeated quietly. "My mother used to tell me stories about it, said it was a dead world." Kareth's voice was distant. "Not dead, just forgotten." Days later, the shuttle descended through thick gray clouds, landing among broken skyscrapers and sand-covered streets. The once blue planet was now silent, oceans dry, cities buried under dust. Eli stepped out, his boots sinking into the soft earth. The wind carried faint whispers, echoes of a world that once sang with life. Kareth walked beside him, his face unreadable. "This is where it all began," he said, "and where I first met her." They walked through the ruins of an old city. Signs written in faded languages still hung on the walls. Rusty cars rested half-buried in sand. Eli ran his hand across one, imagining what life used to be. Kareth stopped in front of a tall structure half-collapsed. "This place," he said quietly, "was her home." They entered the building, its walls cracked but still standing. Inside, the air was heavy, still, and filled with memories. Kareth moved slowly, touching the old furniture with trembling fingers. Eli watched him in silence, feeling something powerful in the air. In the corner, under a layer of dust, lay a small metallic box. Eli bent down and opened it carefully. Inside was a faded picture. A young human woman smiling beside a tall alien with blue eyes. Eli looked at Kareth, his voice shaking. "That's you." Kareth nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "And that's your mother." Eli's breath caught, his hands shaking as he held the photo. He had imagined her face so many times, but seeing her smile, broke something open in his heart. Kareth sat down, his voice softer than ever before. "I loved her," he said. "She showed me what it meant to care, to feel, to be alive." He paused, his eyes distant. "But when war came, I was called back to Varian. I promised to return, but I never did." Eli listened in silence, tears building in his eyes. "So she raised me alone," he whispered. Kareth nodded. "I searched for her later, but Earth had fallen, humans scattered across the stars. I thought she was gone forever." He looked at Eli with guilt that cut deep. "Until I saw you." The air trembled as a faint pulse of light flickered through the room. Eli turned. The pendant on his chest was glowing brighter than ever. Kareth stood quickly. "It's reacting," he said. The pendant lifted from Eli's chest, floating in the air, projecting a soft blue hologram. And then, her voice. "Hello, Kareth," she said gently. "If you're hearing this, it means you finally came back." Kareth froze, his heart shattering with every word. The hologram showed Arya, smiling as she held a baby in her arms. "Our son will grow strong," she said. "He'll have your courage in my heart, and maybe one day, he'll bring light back to the stars." The image flickered. "If I'm gone, promise me you'll protect him, not as a ruler, but as a father." The message ended, and the pendant fell gently into Eli's hands. Kareth sank to his knees, tears glimmering in his alien eyes. Eli placed a hand on his shoulder, for the first time not as a servant or stranger, but as a son. "She believed in you," Eli said softly. "And so do I." Kareth looked up, his voice shaking. "I failed her once. I won't fail you." He stood, his expression hardening with new purpose. "They will come for us. Draven won't stop until he finds us." Eli clenched his fist. "Then let's make him regret it." For the first time, Kareth smiled. A small, human smile. He turned toward the horizon where the ruins met the stars. "There's still something hidden here," he said. "Arya wouldn't leave this message without a reason." As they walked deeper into the ruins, lights began to flicker beneath the sand. Ancient power sources awakening after centuries of silence. The ground trembled softly. Somewhere beneath their feet, Earth was waking up. And as the twin suns of Varian burned light years away, two figures, a father and son, stood together on the forgotten home of humanity. Not as fugitive and master, but as family. And above them, a new light flickered in the sky. The beginning of something greater than war, greater than empire. A rebirth. The awakening of Earth. Beneath the cracked surface of the forgotten planet, ancient machines began to hum again. Dust trembled, air shimmered, and buried lights flickered to life, one by one. Eli and Kareth stood on the edge of a vast canyon, where ruins met glowing blue veins of energy running deep through the rock. Kareth's eyes glowed brighter. "This is no ordinary ruin," he whispered. "This is a power grid, older than any civilization we know." Eli knelt beside a glowing symbol etched in the ground, shaped like a spiral around a single star. "It's responding to the pendant," he said, his voice full of wonder. The pendant floated from his chest again, spinning slowly, emitting waves of light that flowed into the earth. The ground shook violently, and a low sound echoed from below, a voice not alive, but not dead either. "Identification confirmed," the voice said, ancient yet clear, human lineage detected, genetic link approved. Eli stumbled back, eyes wide. "It's talking to me." Kareth's breath caught, realization dawning. "Your mother. She must have known this existed." A massive metal ring began to rise from the earth, taller than the buildings around it, symbols glowing across its frame. It looked like a gateway, a forgotten relic of human technology far beyond its time. The voice continued, Project Eden Protocol initiating. Beams of light shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. Kareth shielded his eyes. "By the stars, she didn't just hide a message," he whispered. "She hid an entire world's defense." Miles away, in the orbit above Earth, Draven's fleet entered the system. The commander bowed. "Counselor, we've tracked them to the old human sector." Draven grinned. "Perfect," he said. "Bring me Kareth's head, and destroy whatever's left of that cursed planet." As the ships descended, the dark clouds glowed red from their engines. Kareth watched from the canyon ridge, his jaw tightening. "They're here." Eli turned to him. "Can we stop them?" Kareth looked at the ancient gateway still pulsing with light. "If this machine is what I think it is, we might not have to." The pendant flashed again, projecting another hologram. This time, it was Arya once more, her face filled with calm strength. "If you're seeing this," she said, "it means the world has chosen its guardian." She looked straight at Eli. "This system was built to protect humanity, but it only responds to a human heart." Her image turned toward Kareth, and to the one who once swore to guard it. The hologram vanished, leaving both of them standing in stunned silence. Kareth turned to his son. "She built this with her own people, a failsafe, hidden from the galaxy." Eli nodded slowly. "Then we finish what she started." The ground split open, revealing enormous structures buried beneath, towers of metal rising like giants from the dust. the air filled with light and energy as Earth itself awakened. Old satellites reactivated, launching beams toward the atmosphere, forming a shield that shimmered across the planet's surface. Kareth looked at it with awe. She did it. She saved this world even after it fell. But the moment of wonder ended as the first wave of Draven's fleet appeared in the sky, their warships glowing red, ready to fire. Eli felt his heart pound. They're going to destroy everything. Kareth stepped forward, placing his hand on the control pedestal. Not while I live. Energy surged from the pedestal into his veins, merging his alien power with the ancient human system. The gateway roared to life, blue lightning bursting across the sky. Massive beams of pure energy shot upward, striking the approaching ships, tearing them apart in bursts of fire and light. Eli watched in shock. You're controlling it. Kareth's voice echoed through the storm. No, we are. Eli placed his hand beside his father's, and the machine responded instantly, the light doubling in brightness. For a moment, they were one, father and son, human and alien, two halves of the same legacy. Together they directed the power of a world reborn. Draven's ships fell like meteors, crashing into the dead oceans below. But as victory neared, a final shadow appeared in orbit. Draven's flagship, massive and dark. He activated a weapon that glowed like a miniature sun. Kareth's eyes widened. That blast could tear the planet apart. Eli looked at him, steady and fearless. Then we stop it together. They both focused on the pendant, its light growing until it was almost blinding. The gateway responded with a surge of energy so strong that the air itself screamed. The weapon's light collided with Earth's shield in a thunderous explosion that split the sky. For a heartbeat, everything was white, then silence. When the dust settled, Draven's flagship was gone, the sky clear once more. Kareth fell to one knee, exhausted, his power nearly drained. Eli caught him. It's over, he whispered. Kareth looked up at him, pride shining in his tired eyes. No, Eli, it's only the beginning. Above them, the ancient machines of Earth stood alive again, humming like a heartbeat. Humanity's home had awakened from its long sleep, and the galaxy, once ruled by greed and fear, was about to witness something it had long forgotten. Hope, the bridge between two worlds. Smoke drifted over the shattered sky, glowing faintly under the reborn sun of Earth. The once silent planet now pulsed with new energy, the hum of its awakened heart spreading across continents. Eli stood beside the great gateway, his hands still trembling from the storm of power they had unleashed. Beside him, Kareth knelt, his breath shallow, his body weakened by the strain of channeling both alien and human energy. Father, Eli said softly, his voice breaking. Kareth looked up, a faint smile touching his pale lips. You called me that. Eli nodded, his eyes wet. Because that's what you are. Kareth's voice was barely a whisper. Then I've already won more than all the galaxies could offer. But their moment of peace shattered when the air above them cracked open. A massive shadow descended from orbit, darker than the clouds, its engines roaring like thunder. Draven's voice echoed through the sky, cold and furious. You thought you could destroy me, Vale, he hissed. But I am the future, and the galaxy will remember my name. His warship descended through the atmosphere, its hull glowing with stolen energy. Kareth's eyes widened in shock. He's feeding on the fragments of the destroyed fleet. Eli clenched his fists. Then let's end this, together. The ground shook as Draven emerged from his ship, armored in dark metal, his eyes burning red. You betrayed your own kind for a human, he snarled. For a weak creature of dirt and tears. Kareth stepped forward, his voice steady. You call it weakness. I call it heart. Draven laughed bitterly. Then your heart will die with you. He raised his hand, firing a beam of crimson energy that struck Kareth square in the chest. Eli screamed, rushing forward, catching him as he fell. Kareth gasped, his body trembling. Stay back. But Eli refused, his hand glowing as he tried to heal him, the pendant pulsing with light. Draven watched with disgust. Pathetic, he spat. The blood of two worlds, wasted. Suddenly, the gateway behind them flared to life again, responding to Eli's grief. The light spread across the ground, reaching the fallen machines of Earth, connecting them into one vast network. Kareth looked at it and realized the truth. This is the final key, he whispered. The bridge between human and alien. Eli looked at him in confusion. What do you mean? Kareth smiled sadly. It needs one to guide it, and one to power it. Eli shook his head, understanding his father's meaning. No, I won't let you. Kareth placed his hand on Eli's shoulder, his voice calm and full of love. You are her heart, Eli, and mine too. This world belongs to you now. Before Eli could stop him, Kareth stepped into the center of the gateway, his body surrounded by streams of blue light. Draven roared, launching another attack, but the beams dissolved before reaching him. Kareth's voice echoed across the valley, strong and clear. For too long, power divided us. Now it will unite us. His body began to glow, the light spreading outward, merging with the machines. Eli fell to his knees, shouting, Father! Kareth looked down at him one last time, his voice soft but unshaken. Tell her, I kept my promise. The sky split open with a blinding flash. The gateway exploded in light, sending a wave of pure energy across the planet. Draven screamed as his ship disintegrated, his armor melting into dust. And then, silence, calm, still, endless. When the light faded, Kareth was gone. Only a single silver pendant lay where he stood, glowing gently beside Eli. Eli picked it up, pressing it to his chest, his tears falling onto the dust. The wind carried his whisper through the air. You didn't fail her, Father. You saved us all. Days turned into weeks, and the sky above Earth grew clear again. The ancient machines now served as guardians, forming a network that stretched beyond the planet. Aliens, refugees, and surviving humans came together, drawn by the signal that pulsed from Earth, a message of peace. Eli stood at the edge of the restored gateway, looking at the stars. He had rebuilt what his parents had begun. The galaxy once divided by race now looked toward a single shining world. A world reborn from loss, powered by love, and protected by the legacy of one man who changed everything. The stars whispered softly above him, and somewhere beyond their light, he could almost hear Kareth's voice. You're not just human, Eli. You are hope. The wind rose gently, the pendant shimmered in his hand. And as he lifted his gaze toward the heavens, the great cities of Earth began to glow once more. Humanity had returned, and the name Kareth Vale became not a story of wealth or power, but the legend of a father who gave up eternity, so his son could unite the stars.